So tonight at the Phoenix DevOps meetup, we'd like to welcome JC Jones, who I've been sort of nerd stalking for a while. I helped organize a conference about 1.5 years ago where there was a talk on Let's Encrypt, and JC reached out to me and offered to help that speaker out with the talk. And tonight he's here to teach us a little bit about Let's Encrypt, and I'm super excited to have him here. So please welcome JC Jones from Mozilla.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for having me. And I am with Mozilla. I'm the head of crypto engineering there, and I'm also on the technical advisory board for the Let's Encrypt project. I'm kind of a web PKI person. And that's my Twitter handle if you want to get a hold of me, and we can talk more about contact afterward. But I like to start this talk with sort of a moment of reflection because I'm old and curmudgeonly, at least in terms of dealing with stuff on the internet. So here we go back to 1995, and the first version of HTTPS available on the web. Right? Netscape Navigator added it in 2.0. Sort of was there in 1.1, but added it really in 2.0. And then for the first time ever, you didn't have to be a government agency or understand Bruce Schneier's applied cryptography to have encrypted communications. So it started just with, of course, credit cards and passwords. And 21 and a change years later, we're still in a spot where HTTPS is the minority traffic on the web. So that's changing, thankfully. HTTPS is, of course, the security protocol for the web. And without it, you can have all manner of, you have no integrity protection for anything that happens in your web connections. For a long time, nobody really cared because no one was dealing with, the only people that could go and affect your connections had to be physically in between you and your whatever website you're getting to, and who cares if you get your password to your Yahoo mail. But these days, the consequences are substantially higher. It's a lot easier to build man-in-the-middle boxes and name them things like public free Wi-Fi and watch who connects and what they connect to. And of course, the economic incentives have changed quite a bit. You know, your Yahoo mail, maybe you're still using that, but the value of that account, being as it's tied to everything else, is a lot higher. Also on the economic front, like internet service providers, maybe not in the United States, we're a little bit in a privileged position, but they've been known to do things like mass replace advertisements on the web from ad networks in, say, the West with their own. They're just modifying the HTTP content as it flies across the wire. And this is happening quite a lot in India and China. There was a paper last February that identified 14 major ISPs in China and India that were doing this with practically every ad network everywhere. If you dig into this, like one of my favorite bits is straight up replacing Amazon.com. So if you're on that ISP and you type in Amazon.com, you get Amazon.com. It just doesn't belong to Amazon. It's a different, completely different site that, is local. I guess that's local business and so forth, and support local business. It just may not be what you were looking for. So, damn you IETF, why are we still in this position? We understand at this point security should be the default. It's important. It was 6 years ago that Firesheep came out and let anyone who can type pip install Firesheep go and man in the middle every HTTP session that's happening across their box, whether it's theirs or not. So what's the issue? Well, of course, it costs money. And what's worse than it costing money, and it traditionally costs money, is it costs the same wherever you happen to be in the world. Not, $20 for a certificate here in the United States isn't that big of a deal, but it's a major impediment for emerging markets. And not only does it cost money, but user experience sucks. Like, if you have ever tried to install a cert before Let's Encrypt, you have probably experienced how much it sucks. One of the board members for Let's Encrypt, we had a lovely meme of him saying, has a PhD in computer science, still can't install a certificate. It's true facts. So Let's Encrypt is free, easy, and open, and you all know all this because you've all heard of Let's Encrypt, so we'll just run through quickly that, it's gratis. You can get certificates without having to have the complications of paying for it, which is actually really important in places where there are tax ramifications for people wanting to start businesses and that sort of thing. It's automated, so everything is built using standard protocols and in a fashion where it needs no user or human intervention. We'll get more about that here in a bit. And being as the original folks behind this were Mozilla, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, we wanted this to be the most transparent CA. And so everything that we do ends up in certificate transparency logs, so you don't have to trust that we're doing the right thing. You can go verify that we're doing the right thing. And, this whole ecosystem, I feel it lacks sunshine that we want. If you've ever looked at at all the various misissuances, which is a term for certificate authorities doing the wrong thing, that come to light years later, and you have to say, so who got that misissued certificate for this important website? We don't know. Was it really, was this organized crime? How was it used? Let's Encrypt just logs everything from the get-go to certificate transparency. And now this is kicking off a movement where it's going to hopefully become more and more common. And it's open. Everything about Let's Encrypt is open source. This presentation is open. The actual software to run the certificate authority is open. In fact, I know of several organizations that are now using Let's Encrypt's server software for their own internal purposes to run their internal CAs. It's pretty cool. And I mentioned a moment ago, in the beginning it was Mozilla and the Electronic Frontier Foundation. That's the groups that got together and said, we should build a free CA. But in the 2 years that it's been, since it was publicly announced, 2.5 years that it's been publicly announced, it's become a cooperative thing. This is a point in time, and I think this list has gotten bigger, but clearly we're not the only people who think it's important to go support this kind of effort for the good of the internet. So, all right, what really is the point? What's the cool thing? Why do we care? To an extent, a lot of people care about having free certs because, something that used to cost $20 to $100 per website, it's lovely to have that cost nothing. Or $300. $300 is pretty excessive if it's a DV certificate, wildcard cert or not. But yeah, but to me, it's not actually about the free certs. It's about the automation. It's about this technology that we built, this standard that we built, and are demoing with Let's Encrypt. It's called ACME, the automated certificate management environment. It's kind of simple on the face of it. It's just the main thing that certificate authorities are trying to figure out is whether you, the person trying to give them money, control the domain that you are requesting a certificate for. And this is highly automatable, but nobody had the desire to do that before. So ACME is a protocol at the Internet Engineering Task Force that gives out these challenges that anyone that controls the domain can complete, and if you can complete them, you can get a cert. That's the whole that's the only friction there is. Go solve these challenges. Don't fall off the bridge, and you get a cert. So Acme is the big thing. It's just entered last call at the IETF, so soon we will have a version 1.0 of it, probably. I'll cross my fingers here, because as soon as, of course, they announced it was entering last call, all kinds of people came out of the woodwork to say, but this. And Acme is, of course, the method by which, the protocol by which you talk to Let's Encrypt, but those of us working on it want it to be the method by which you talk to anybody. That's the point here. We want to take certificate issuance and make it smooth and easy, whether you choose to get a free certificate from Let's Encrypt, or you want to get a different sort of certificate from someone else, because this is a protocol that has known security properties. It's easy to implement. It's been looked at a lot more than the various ways that have been abused by bad guys at other certificate authorities. And actually, StartCom, whom you may have heard of, was the first free certificate authority, giving out free certs a couple years before Let's Encrypt was doing so. StartCom has announced that they're going to switch to using the Acme protocol themselves. So it's, we think, got legs to go and help you automate your life. You know, we're here at a DevOps meeting. Our job doing DevOps work is to automate ourselves into a position where we have breathing room to go and do, you know, cool things, like come up with new ways to automate our lives. And Acme is there as another way to automate all of this painful certificate management, so that you can just simplify the whole machinery of securing whatever it is you're responsible for setting up or maintaining. So this is a tool that you can go use to build your own scripts and so forth, but you're not alone out there. There's a whole bunch of web hosts that have integrated with Acme, and thus with Let's Encrypt, and soon with StartCom once they go back online. And there's dozens and dozens of clients that implement the Acme protocol. There's a couple notes on here, like in the way I think about Acme, one of these days we're going to have web servers and network appliances that when you turn them on, when you say start this website, I want you to host it, they're just going to say, okay, let's go get a certificate to handle this website. Or I'm a new firewall connected to the internet. I better go get myself a certificate as soon as I know what my name is, you know. And Acme lets them do that eventually. It's going to happen. For all of you who have worked with the Apache web server, I'm confident one of these days someone's going to release mod Acme that you can just, you know, install mod Acme and it just handles it so that every site you bring up automatically has a cert. I sponsored a undergraduate research project last year that attempted to do that with Nginx and didn't happen. Turns out Nginx is not an easy one to do this sort of work in. But it'll get there eventually. Caddy, if you haven't heard of it, is an interesting one. It's a web server written in Golang. It's pretty performant and modern. It's HTTP2 only. I bring it up specifically because it's very bleeding edge. And, oops. And that video already played. My apologies. But I just want to show you a quick demonstration of how you use Caddy server and Let's Encrypt to encrypt a website, because I love this video. Just got posted to YouTube in December 2015, just after Let's Encrypt went live. And yeah, it goes quickly. This is editing the config file for Caddy. You put in the host name of the server that you want, and then you run Caddy server. And it says activating privacy features. And then it says done. And now you open up your web browser and you go to the website, and it's encrypted because Caddy server went and fetched that certificate for you. There wasn't anything that you had to do. This is the future of all of these things. This just happened to be the first one. I love pointing out that none of us involved in Let's Encrypt expected the growth that it's had. As with anyone, any team, we took a bunch of idle guesses as to how fast we thought Let's Encrypt would grow, and well, we were all wrong. We were all way, way too low. But this is just off of CT or off of the Let's Encrypt stats page. But it's over here at the 29 million certs, covering 28 million unique, fully qualified domain names that map to 13 million actual registered domain names right now. And that's active certs. Like, that's just, the growth is crazy. And it's only entered general availability on December 3rd, 2015. So it quickly has gotten to the point where...
Can you monitor if the sites are up?
Yeah.
So that's like numbers of sites that are up.
So that graph doesn't show that. I have separate statistics that show how many of those are actually installed. And at the beginning of 2016, it was a much smaller number than I expected. Something like 40% of the certs that had been obtained from Let's Encrypt were actually in use. But that number's a lot higher now. It's beyond 90%.
We're playing with it a lot earlier, probably. Not people are actually using it maybe more.
So the question, yeah, the question was really whether all those certs are actually on servers that are in use and on the public internet, and whether we can see them. And over 90% of them are, by the numbers I most recently did. As to why that grew from 40% at the beginning of 2016, I can only kind of speculate, but I think a lot of it has to do with the big hosting providers issuing millions of certs at a time. And all of those went up. Like for a while there, they didn't. But once they're just so big compared to all the hobbyists that they blow that number up. It's quite possible that the same percentage of hobbyists the same 40% of hobbyists are actually using their certs, but the dream hosts and the WordPresses of the world blew that up.
Do you know if Zendesk is using that for theirs too?
I don't know about Zendesk, whether...
They also generate certs for like their help desk portal, so I'm not sure if they're using Let's Encrypt or not. They might.
Yeah, I don't know if Zendesk is using Let's Encrypt. Well...
That's not a certificate authority though. So there's like a certificate authority.
Oh, you started with
Yeah.
Anyway, this is just kind of a fun graph from W3Techs. In December, Let's Encrypt became the second largest certificate authority on the public web. Other measurements of how big it is are hard. There's all kinds of caveats, but W3Techs seems pretty legit. And for those of you interested, Let's Encrypt is more popular in Europe than it is in North America, which I find kind of interesting. Primarily in Germany and France. I guess that surprises nobody. I clicked the button. I apologize. Okay, so we already covered that the large providers did the majority of this, and HTTPS usage is going up. So this is the big graph for me, being a person at Mozilla whose job is to go and encrypt the web. This is a chart of growth of percentage of page loads across Firefox users since November 2015 when Let's Encrypt started to now, and that's up to date. So we started this whole presentation with that chart that said 38% of of traffic on the internet was on the web was encrypted. We broke 50% right at the beginning of the year, and I'm hoping that I'm working to get that number to 100% because it's too easy to go mess with people's connections. HTTP was not intended for an adversarial internet. So, a little bit of a timeline, I guess. Things that happened in the last year since Let's Encrypt launched. It didn't actually launch with a number of features, including IPv6 support. I can go into why that was. And things about rate limits and so forth. And coming up soon, Let's Encrypt is planning to get intermediate certs that are ECDSA certificates so that you can have pure, well, not pure elliptic curve chains, but at least you can go from an RSA to two levels of elliptic curve certs and speed up your connections thus, because the elliptic curve algorithms are faster than RSA. Anyway, moving on. So everybody should be doing HTTPS. I hope you already got the gist of that. And I'm here to secure the entire internet. And before we go off to questions and answers, let me move onto a shell here, and let's do a little playing around, huh? That's always fun. So, earlier today, as in a few hours ago, I guess I got disconnected here. Apologies. A few hours ago, I picked up a VPS at DigitalOcean just for fun and giggles. As you can see, it still has the root login, but
the Wi-Fi in here like took a dump.
Yeah.
No more Wi-Fi?
I was only able to get on the public.
All right.
The default public.
All right. Well, let me switch to my. I will switch to my tablet here, and we'll see.
I'm trying to get an IP. Like it wasn't working. Just waiting. Let's see. Maybe let me in.
So I suppose we could move to Q&A, but I did actually disconnect via tethering. So let's do this thing.
He's bouncing.
Okie doke.
Which one of you guys took the internet down? The entire internet is down.
Okie doke. Well,
Were you able to get back up there?
yeah, I'm acceptably there. It's a little laggy, but all right. Can you all see us? Shall we move it slightly up?
The other Wi-Fi should work. It's working now. If you just want to jump in it, it should work. You just switch back to pvop.conf. Or you already connected?
I'm already connected,
Let's
so
go through it, yeah.
it's just a little laggy, but I can deal with lag if you guys can. All right, so this box has a few wildcards pointed at it so that we can go and play around. I figure we'd start with hopping into the Apache here and futzing with some lag. So how is this sufficiently visible to everyone? I can still crank up the font size a little bit more. Okay, cool. So let's go create a website for ourselves. I've got a couple wildcards set up. Let's start with one of them here is star.is.insufficient.coffee. So let's see. You see up here, I've got a few ideas, but let's make let's pick something underneath that, and set up a new config. How about, I don't know, my hat has, or is, no, my mug is insufficient coffee.conf. How's that sound? Great? Everyone happy? All right, cool. Everyone likes playing with Apache configs, right? What did I just say? My mug? Mug is insufficient coffee. Okay, cool. Does that look right to everybody? We'll just see. A2 enable. My mug is insufficient coffee. Where did A2 enable go?
A2 Insight.
Ah, right. Thank you. Okie doke. Reload Apache. It's not active, cannot reload. Okay, fine. Service Apache 2 start. Let's just go see if that's actually there. My mug is insufficient coffee. All right, cool. Great, website. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to show you is CertBot. It started its life as the official Let's Encrypt client, but it turns out that was really confusing to people because Let's Encrypt doesn't need an official client. It's a standardized protocol. You can use it as you use whatever you want to do it. So it got its name changed and moved ownership from the Let's Encrypt organization to the Electronic Frontier Foundation, and now it's CertBot. It's still maintained by people that are actively involved in Let's Encrypt, so it stays up to date pretty good, but it's like the Swiss Army knife of Let's Encrypt tools. It tries to be everything for everybody, which is good and bad. It's got a very helpful little thing here that says, like, I'm using Apache on, in this case, oops, God, what did I do? I'm using Apache on, this is yakety yak. So it says, hey, you should go sudo apt-get install python certbot Apache. All right, well, we can do that, except that, of course, this is yakety, so I should be saying sudo apt, but clearly can't be always up to date. So anyway, yep, I cheated. I already installed it just in case. So let's play with this thing. Certbot. You can just say certbot help, and it will give you some useful help. The important thing here to note is it's a plugin architecture. What the website just suggested we do, since we said we were using Apache, is to install the Apache plugin. But there's a bunch of ways to use it. Standalone doesn't need a web server at all. WebRoot is very clever if you're using something like Nginx or some other web server. I won't go into those right now, but I'm happy to go into those in questions if people have are curious. We're going to start with just Apache. So that would be certbot, certbot, Apache, and actually that's all I have to do. All right. It read my Apache config file, or files, and wants to know what we want to turn on. We'll just pick both of those. What email address? Well, so Let's Encrypt asks for an email address in the Acme protocol because Let's Encrypt would like to be able to tell you if your certificate is expiring or if there's something critically bad. The service would like to notify you maybe that your client is super out of date or it's doing something terrible to their servers. There is no mailing list, so we ask that you please provide, but if you don't want to, that's fine. You can skip through this in all of the clients. You do have to agree to illegal terms of service. It's fairly straightforward and doesn't change a whole lot, but you know, if you're using this commercially, you should probably take a look at it. So in this case, I already had a certificate. It's recognizing that I already had it and is asking whether it would be okay to go issue a second certificate that includes multiple names. So this is what's called, what a lot of people used to call a, what were those things? What did Symantec call these?
Alternative name search.
Well, that's the modern term for them. It's a sans cert, but for a while they had a different like proprietary name that a lot of people knew them. Yeah, UC something certs that like people used to charge $300 for that sort of thing. Not as bad as a wildcard, but still, like it should be easy. Just put more names onto this SAN field. It's only a few bytes. Anyway, Let's Encrypt lets you put up to 100 names in a given cert, which is nice. So we'll get into why that's useful later. We're just going to go ahead and say expand because it's easy. Hey, it died. Hooray! Something about dialogue error. That's odd. I don't think that was Let's Encrypt's fault. I think that was probably given dialogue error. I don't know what that means. But luckily, like any good Unix tool, there's a log. Assuming you don't lag so hard that you... yeah, Python died. Hooray! All right. Unable to open logs? Cute. I don't know. That's interesting. We'll try this separately here with making sure that Apache's running, and I will tell it to use only a single cert. And assume that this can go under the same category of it's the try to do everything for you sort of tool. Is the server not up? Anyone know? Always good in a live demo. Yeah, okay, it's up. To have things go poorly. But this is you know, real sysadminning, right? We go and read the logs. So I'm going to go. So I'll put it out to you guys. Do you want me to debug what's up with certbot, or shall we try certbot in a different form, or shall we move on to a different tool? Different tool? I don't. Different tool. All right. So my next favorite tool, something I use personally for a bunch of boxes that I can't run certbot on, is a tool called manual, where the last letters are LE. This thing. It's written in Python. It's specifically Python 3. So those of you who are still clinging to Python 2, I'm sorry for your loss. But it's a very, very, if you're a sysadmin, you'll like it from the perspective that, where did my terminal go? You'll like it from the perspective that it's entirely manual, as the name implies. So it doesn't do anything for you, pretty much. We're just going to make ourselves a directory here. And it makes you walk through every step of the Acme protocol individually as different command lines. The good news about this is it makes it really easy to script, and it also makes it really easy to handle things that can't, that are on boxes that aren't this one. So I use it to configure, for example, my various things at Google App Engine that don't have any certificate integrations right now. So you can run manual from some other box, and I'll show you what that looks like here. It would be a pip3 install manual, but it's already here. I misspelled it, but you know, there's supposed to be an extra A in there. There we go. All right.
Quick question.
Yes.
Would this be like a project as opposed to like a greenfield project where you can like maybe use something like CertBot or something else that's a little bit more hands-off?
It's an option. There's a bunch of options. If you go to the Let's Encrypt community website, community.let'sencrypt.org, I maintain as a wiki, so people can really maintain it for me at this point, a list of clients that people have built, and it's pretty massive. They're in every language. There's ones that are pure bash for those of you who are scripting masters and like to do JSON with sed. Like, I mean, more power to you. It is entirely possible to do.
There's a lot of examples out there, just about any combination of platform and language you want to use for doing it and automating it.
So basically just choose whichever.
Google's your friend. It's like anything out there. If you're looking to do it, somebody has probably already done some flavor of that already, so you can just piggyback off what they've done.
So this is a way to do it. I happen to use this one for everything that I use for the DNS challenge. It also can do HTTP challenge, and I'll show you both. I just said manual register and gave it an email address as before. I'm going to say, yes, that's cool. It generated a key and registered it with Let's Encrypt servers and wants me to agree to the terms of service. Okay, cool. So that's done. In this directory, there's now a thing called account.json, which if we look at it, has account keys and all of that sort of jazz in it. And you can see the end RSA private key tag at the end with the PEM encoded certificate, or key, rather. Actually, I guess it's PKCS7, but whatever. Little of this, little of that. So if we look back at the manual command line, I ran manual register. If we just run it, it says you can register, authorize, issue, revoke, info, version. Those first three are the order in which the ACME protocol says you go. First, you make sure you have an account. Then you authorize one or more host names. And then you issue certs for those host names. And you can issue them in whatever combination you like. It's not like CertBot that tried to walk us through, hey, you seem to already have a cert. You want us to expand it and issue another cert that covers both and replace the first one. This doesn't do any of that stuff for you or any of that logic for you. It's totally up to you. So that's good and bad, right? We're all capable of making these decisions. So now we're going to say authorize. It's going to say, wait, you have to actually tell me what to do authorizing-wise. So we'll start with method HTTP, because it's easy. And we'll take that, we'll take, what? How about, I'm sorry?
It's in your browser.
Yeah, well, we can use that one, sure. I still don't remember what it was. This mug is insufficient.coffee. All right, it's requesting a challenge for that domain, and it says, okay, great. You need to go put a file at this location. So when you resolve this, when a web browser, whether it's at Let's Encrypt or yourself, tries to go to this URL, it gets the correct file. The only problem with manual is it wants you to go do this interactively. So if you press enter now, it's going to go check it and then say, hey, it didn't work. You hadn't done the thing. Error, dead. In fact, I'll just let that happen. It's going to wait for verification, say, hey, I couldn't find it, and then die. And it'll make you do this again. Hooray, fail. Well, let's just do it again this time. I will use Control-Z because I am a Unix person. And we'll just take that file that got written out. Here it is. We'll copy this to, well, I guess we need to go make that directory first, huh? Make dir-p var www html dot well known acme challenge And then we will copy this there.
It's well known that it's impossible to type in your live coding.
What is?
No, it's impossible to type, not make typos in your live coding.
Exactly. All right, so we copied it there. We can go and make sure this URL works. See if anyone beats me to it, typing in that long string. Oh, hey, works. So that tells me that it should work when Let's Encrypt tries this. So let's try it. Foreground. We'll press enter. Waiting for verification, checking in 5, and then it's going to write this, the certificate, or actually, this didn't write a certificate.
Is that
It
5
authorized.
seconds for you to copy that file?
Well, once you press enter, you got 5 seconds. In reality, you have much less. It doesn't work quite like that. There's a pull required in the protocol that Let's Encrypt. For all practical purposes, when you press enter in this, Let's Encrypt checks immediately. So it's the 5-second lag is not to be relied upon as a time window in which you can copy the file. So nothing changed in here yet because all we did was authorize. Now you can authorize as many domains as you like. We can go throw another one in there if you want. But the next step is to issue. That gets you a cert. So issue. What does issue want? Well, it pretty much just wants a list of domains again. And you can also give it a specific key size and file and all that sort of jazz if you care. But we're just going to go with the simple version. Oh, hey, I didn't have to do anything for that one because we already authorized it. The hard part is authorizing. And now we have a cert. It's a valid it's a valid cert for a valid website. Right there, you've got the key. That's the PEM file at the bottom. And you've got the various forms of the certificate chain. So now it's up to me to go and put this into my web server software. Make sense? Or web server-like software. Like this is what I do for my firewall at home too. Until pfSense adds Let's Encrypt integration next release. So if you notice, the issue command up here takes a list of domains. And similarly, the authorize command could take a list of domains. And you can run authorize, 8 times for 8 different domains, and then run issue 8 times and get 8 certs. You're going to actually quickly run afoul of rate limits at Let's Encrypt if you do that too much. Otherwise, you can say authorize these 8 domains and then issue 1 cert that covers all 8. Does that make sense? Let's Encrypt has rate limits that limit how many certs per week you can get for a given registered domain, meaning like insufficient.coffee is a registered domain. This mug is insufficient.coffee is an FQDN underneath insufficient.coffee. That makes sense? The limit there is because certs, even though it's free, they're not like free to maintain. Like they take CPU power and that sort of thing. So this is just a way that Let's Encrypt stays within its budget, I guess you could say. That said, each cert can have 100 names, and each top-level domain, not top-level domain, but each registered domain can issue 10 certs a week. They last for 3 months. So you can actually have a remarkable number of subdomains covered with certificates if you're willing to do some gymnastics. I don't remember what that is, but what, 60 times 1,000? 60,000? And you can get that raised if you have a reason to get it raised. You just go and talk to the Let's Encrypt folks.
I just had a spontaneous thing I want to look at because I used to have, what was the provider who was giving free certificates besides Let's Encrypt? What were they called?
StartCom. Start SSL was.
So you could Start SSL. I had a Start SSL for my Synology, which is just a home NAS box, right?
Okay.
And I just went, it was expired. I just logged into it and it has an expired cert on it. It's rolled back to a self-signed cert.
Yeah.
I went to their admin. There's just like a checkbox. get a certificate from Let's Encrypt.
Yep, Synology added Let's Encrypt support mid-year last year.
They're pretty awesome. Synology's like, if you're going to use some proprietary system like that, like they are seem to be on top of that stuff.
Yeah, they were the first that I knew of that did that. It entered their beta shortly after Let's Encrypt entered its beta. So pretty cool.
So I'm doing it right now.
Excellent. So does anyone have any further questions about HTTP stuff with Manuel?
What's the breakdown of people who use HTTP-based ACME authorization versus DNS-based?
I don't know the answer. The question is, how many people use HTTP authorization versus DNS? And the third is actually a TLS type of authentication that's very, very clever and thus hard to work with. But I don't know what that breakdown is anymore. I know what it was. And it used to be that the vast majority of people using ACME were using the TLS version. But that number is so old that I wouldn't trust it.
Maybe it would depend on how many web servers you're authorizing, really.
Yeah, I think that is entirely true.
If
They,
it's lots and lots of web servers, then you're going to want to do the DNS authentication.
maybe.
If it's lots of subdomains off one main domain, the DNS is going to be easier.
Yeah, maybe. It depends on your environment, I think. Akamai does HTTP for everything, and they manage it in very high volume. So, and so does, I believe, so do WordPress and Shopify. So, I mean, the main advantage for DNS, Let's Encrypt's DNS or Acme's DNS validation doesn't let you get validate the root and then get all of the sub labels for free. Technically, the CA browser forum permits that now, sort of. It's about to be permitted. But Let's Encrypt makes you, even with the DNS version, DNS challenge type, you have to go validate each individual one. So it's not perhaps as easy as you're thinking to get a big tree of them.
But that's
That
like
could
a
change.
political decision, right?
It is.
The idea behind ACME is that someone who owns a domain, the ownership or control of any subdomain could be a different group, a different company. And so I think that's why ACME, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's why ACME doesn't issue wildcard certs and authorize any subdomain. They want to know that you actually have control over what they're about to give you a cert for.
That's pretty much correct. The decision by the working group, well, the decision by Let's Encrypt was to be conservative to start. And the working group working on ACME has done a bunch of back and forth about this and permits you to get sublabels off of the parent label if the CA is willing to do it. Like it's a may, not a must, to implementing certificate authorities. I don't know what to tell you. I don't have any intelligence about what Let's Encrypt will eventually do with that. But the option is now there, whereas in the beginning, like the goal of Let's Encrypt was to get out the door without violating anyone's security protocols and do everything the most conservative way possible for something that's leaning so far forward. Oh, you can't see because I scrolled up. Hey, just for giggles, if you tell Manuel method DNS, it'll say, hey, here's what you do to your DNS server to go get, to authorize a domain that way. So if you can't do HTTP authorization for some reason because you're doing this for an SMTP server, or it would be a real pain for whatever purpose, you can do this with DNS. And you can just keep throwing additional identifiers on there as many times as you like, and it'll just produce them all for you. And yeah, and you can just copy. It's in a form that you can copy paste into bind if you're happening to use that. So again, Manuel I like because it lets you do the whole thing. There's a bash. There's a couple like tiny Acme Tiny written in Python. It's extremely small. It's auditable, as they say. I think it's like 300 lines, which is very similar. It makes you do all the steps independently. This one's just a little nicer because Acme Tiny doesn't give you any help. Manuel does. And the third that I want to show you is Caddy. You saw the video, but it's a lot of fun to play with too. So very rarely do I know people who can actually go deploy Caddy in any environment. Though amusingly, we are using it for a few things inside of the Let's Encrypt sort of organization. Installing it is bizarre because it's still a weird thing. You download a tarball off of their website and you untar it somewhere. Someone's going to need to give me a new URL, please. A new subdomain. It can be off of... okay, well, how about we start with... If anyone doesn't have ideas, we'll start with bin.coffee. Maybe we'll throw in a devops.insufficient.coffee. And
bin.coffee and insufficient coffee domains control.
Yeah. We'll turn on Markdown for giggles. So that's my caddy file. Now I'm going to say caddy. It's possibly going to say, hey, you're running Apache. I failed to start. Yes, okay. Still running Apache. Service Apache. Stop. Apache 2. Thank you. Knew it was wrong in some fashion, so let's try that one more time. Caddy. Activating privacy features. Still fail. What is fail? Nginx is not running.
Oh.
Nginx is running.
Yeah.
I wonder, that may be what killed,
Yeah.
that may be what killed certbot. All right. That's why you have to have multiple ways of doing things. All right. That's curious. I actually don't know what that error is. It must be because I used something wrong in that caddy file. Let me pick a different name that I probably actually control, because I think I probably don't actually control devops.env.bin.coffee. Devops.insufficient.coffee looks fine. How about devops.tacticalsecret.com? Another site that I put a wild card to this. Box earlier. As you can see, I scripted this really carefully so everything would go perfect.
Never does.
Jesus. Something else is responding.
It's always good for people to see how you go through like debugging this anyways. So.
There is some. Why is Nginx running? And stay down.
You killed it before, huh? That's weird.
Let's just all agree it's system D related.
Why don't you do like while zero? While zero kill all that maybe
Are you dead now? I've forgotten System D was on this box. Okay. Are you dead? Yeah. Okay, fine. Now, the moment of truth, perhaps. Does anything answer when we hit it? Wait. Here. Good. Finally, all right. Back to sanity. Go. Do this thing. What? Invalid response. Why is it still dead? I don't know.
Did you copy necessary files around?
I don't need to for Caddy server. It should just work. It, in fact, doesn't use that method. It uses the TLS method.
Why did it say it was still trying to do that, or that well-known folder?
I don't know, actually. Maybe I'm wrong about how Caddy server does its authorizations. Really? That is very sad. Why is it picking up garden.pugsplace.net? That is so strange. It's so very wrong, too.
443? Is there something else listening on?
I mean, this box shouldn't have anything else running, and it didn't even know about that particular host. So that's highly confusing.
Something that was done previously from the same IP or something weird like that?
You sure the unit file is already starting one of those servers in Nginx?
Maybe when Caddy started up, it's loading up in Nginx? Posting your files again?
That is possible, but it shouldn't.
I think it's DNS related.
DNS related is currently my my best guess too. That worked. Okay. So
What did you change there?
I just changed hosts again. So this clearly is insufficient coffee as up and run by Caddy.
Yay, worked!
Yay, it did work. I mean, it's not the... Is that the first one that's worked?
You just use a different host name, right? It's like-
Yeah, I just used a different host name. Is it the first one that worked?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Given how many of these I did earlier...
Made a video of this. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, that would be embarrassing if I got up here and this was all that happened. Oh, no, is insufficient. Unfortunately, the wildcard is insufficient coffee. Like, I'm going to quickly hit the rate limit for is insufficient coffee, but hey, at least that one worked. All right.
Nice.
Oh no, is insufficient coffee is now also a site pointing at the same thing.
Oh, that was why DevOps didn't work. You did DevOps.insufficient coffee, not DevOps is insufficient coffee.
Perfect. Thank you. That's why. All right. Thank you.
There we go.
One thing that might be interesting to you guys about Caddy, not because I want to show off and just advertise this web server, but it's got a markdown mode so that you can do everything. It can just display markdown files, which is kind of nice. Like, you don't have to go do any sort of preprocessor. It's just like, hey, you know, markdown. Anyway, I like it. So, perhaps we
I know
should...
just in Go 1.8 they added HTTP2 push.
Yes.
Does Caddy have HTTP2 push?
There is a plugin for doing HTTP2 push. I have not used it. Matt Holt, the author of Caddy, could talk about it, I think. mholt3 on Twitter. He'd be really happy to know you're interested. Okay, so before I go off to certbot, because now I've been talking for a while and futzing for a while, I think we should probably take this opportunity and advance to the slide that says something about questions and answers. Oh yeah, that one. Ooh.
Cool.
Slide.
Let's have it for JC Jones. We're guys.
Thanks for listening to me ramble.